Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the LU program. In fact, it's episode 13. Who would have ever thought that yourself, Leonard Copeland, and I, Andrew Yays, would get to week 13? It's been a fantastic ride, and again this week, a lot to talk about because we got the NBA Finals coming up, the Los Angeles Lakers against the Miami Heat, and we're going to have a look at that series and also break down some of the goings-on with huge news that Doc Rivers has decided he's had enough with the Clippers, and whether or not it was his choice or not, we'll delve into that. But before we do anything, Copes, we've got to mention that not only have we taken this little podcast, the entertainment world, by storm, where they're knocking on our door, wanting to have a chat to yourself and me, but we've also been able to score our very first sponsor. It's a fantastic organisation right in your sweet spot. They deal with high fashion socks and jocks at a very affordable price, I might add. And the organisation is called Manrags.
Manrags, Drewy, they're fashionable socks, so you can wear them out. You can wear them in the office. More importantly, you can wear them to the nightclub.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Hey, there you go.
Well,
lovely socks and jocks, Drewy.
That's probably more up your alley when it comes to the purpose of wearing underwear and socks at a nightclub. But I will say that the good thing about this organisation is that they're the first to have direct-to-consumer textile recyclers. So they do some fantastic things for the environment. They've kept over 1 million pieces of textiles out of landfills, and which equates to over 100,000 kilograms of textiles. My goodness.
Man,
so if
you need to just go to www.manrags.com.au.
Yes.
The promo code is alley-oop, and you'll get
Yes.
20% off, bro. 20% off.
20% off some of the great socks and jocks. What a fantastic offer. If you're alley-oop listeners, we strongly encourage everyone to jump on and purchase a pair and help not only look very sharp, but do a little bit for the environment as well. Absolutely. Hey, Copes. What a week it's been because we now have our finals, as we've just mentioned. And probably the biggest surprise, which we've spoken about over the last 3 or 4 weeks, has been the Miami Heat. They ended up sealing the deal. As we take a look at what they've done in the finals so far, defeated Indiana 4-0, defeated the Bucks, the number one ranked Bucks 4-1, and then closed out the Eastern Conference Finals with a fantastic hard-fought win over the Boston Celtics 4-2. And there's a lot to like about their prospects against the Los Angeles Lakers based on what we saw against the Celtics.
Absolutely. Against the Celtics, they played zone, Drewy, and they were look, the Boston Celtics couldn't figure out that zone. Spoelstra and his dynamic defense was fantastic. And guys like Bam, Hero coming off the bench, Robinson shooting the three-pointer, they're fearless. So when you got a team like that, no one ever thought that they'd be in the position they're in right now. So they have nothing to lose.
No, they don't. Well, they do because they absolutely do because they're playing in an NBA final. So
now the pressure comes, or the pressure comes now. But before that, no one in their right mind would have picked Miami to be playing in the championship, NBA championship.
No, and Bam Adebayo, it was been the story. He was fantastic in that deciding game, over 30 points, and the work on the boards as well, averaging over 10 boards a game.
And
assists in all areas. So he's taken his game to another level, and he's caught a lot of people off guard because I don't think everyone believed that his capacity was so high. And he had one of the more explosive rips to the rim and dunks we've seen throughout the playoff series. And
a couple of nice block shots as well. He does it all, Drew.
And I guess that the big question with him is how's he going to go against Anthony Davis? It's a big assignment, but everything we've seen with his performance so far in the playoffs would suggest that he's more than
capable. He
is more than capable of performing well against Anthony Davis.
My question to you is,
yes,
if he and Anthony Davis square each other out in the playoffs, in the championship, and LeBron James is guarded by Butler and Iguodala, who do a better job than any player in the NBA on LeBron James, is proven. Do you give Miami a chance at all?
Well, of course you do. I think we've seen enough with the way in which Eric Spoelstra, and if you're handing out Coach of the Final Series awards, then he's got to be right up there. He's been fantastic, what he's been able to do at both ends of the floor. And in particular on the defensive end, used a lot of zone defense. That is way more than I can recall in recent history of teams using the zone defense.
And way more than you ever would have thought of playing because you hate the zone yourself.
Well, I normally see offenses that can find ways of tearing apart zones when you've got guys that can shoot it from the perimeter. And the Celtics, you look at the Celtics, they had enough firepower from the perimeter. But I could not have been more disappointed in the way in which the Celtics were going about trying to counter that zone. Yeah. When the game was in crisis point in Game 6 and they're sticking in that zone, it seemed like their only answer was to blaze away from the three-point line.
Most teams fall for that. Most teams, as you know, I don't care if it's NBL, NBA, college, most teams, when they see a zone, they tend to swing, and jack it up from the outside. Now, another question. You said Boston had shooters capable enough of beating Miami. Do the Lakers have enough shooters on their team to combat that zone that Miami's going to throw at them?
Well, I think so. I think that it's not just going to be about blazing away from the perimeter either, because you've got the bigs. You've got Anthony Davis inside, outside. You've got Dwight Howard. I know offensively he's not the threat that he once was, but still, you throw that zone down, and the way in which they, very unconventional, it's like a 1-2-2 zone, but they put their bigs, they put their littles on the baseline.
Right.
And you absolutely have got some rotation to try and provide some help down low. But if you do that and you've got Dwight Howard down there, JaVale McGee, even someone like Kyle Kuzma around that box. Now, I know that these days that most teams are relying on what goes on in the perimeter and penetrating and posting guys up it's almost a lost art. But if you, in that zone, if you find a way to penetrate it from the high post, the high-low action when you've got littles down below, I don't think that they need to rely on the three-point shot as much as other teams would normally use against the zone. And even with that, I think Caldwell Pope can knock down the three. LeBron James is very adequate at shooting the three ball. Markieff Morris, I know he can light it up from the perimeter. And Kuzma, Danny Green. Danny Green is one that he needs to have a big series. Because when you think of that three ball, he hasn't struggled.
He struggled in the playoffs, Drew.
He has. He's had some good moments, but probably more so-so moments than good moments. But this could be one for him. So I think that the Denver Nuggets, the Los Angeles Lakers have a lot of different options that they can throw at the Miami Heat, and they've got plenty of time to prepare. They're going to have 5 or 6 days since their last game to work out some sort of strategy. But it's going to be a real test of how much they believe in that zone. Throwing at a team like the Lakers, who, the Lakers, their strategy a lot, they don't necessarily muck around too much in the half court. They are high energy. Even on a make, they're looking to push it, and they get a lot of cheap baskets in transition. So that is going to be another area that's going to put some pressure on the Miami Heat, is their way in which they work their defensive transition.
In the beginning, I never gave Miami the credit, but after watching them play and go through these playoff series, their zone defense has bothered a lot of teams. And the fact that you got guys coming off the bench like Hero, you got Robinson who can shoot it from outside and get hot. These guys are unknown guys, but they're not afraid of anybody. And to put those guys on the floor, I think right now the Lakers, they have the edge, but I would not bet my house on it. I'm going to tell you right now, I would not bet my house on it.
It'll be the theme of the show today, because it's really shaping up to be an exciting series that we're going to see. But getting back to what happened in the finals of each conference, and Brad Stevens, the strategy that he used to combat the zone defense was a little bit sketchy. Yeah, there's some subtle changes. They certainly went to more high on balls to try and deal with the zone defense, and you could see him trying a few things. But given that it's a failure because they never got to the championship series, they've very little progress from where they were last season. Does he now come under some scrutiny?
I don't think so, Drew. I think he has a young team. His team's young enough that you give them a little bit more time to gel. I mean, they have superstars, and because they made it so far, people expect a lot of them. But you got to understand, these guys, Brown and Tatum, these guys are still very young in their career anyway. And so the one thing I like about Brad Stevenson is, I don't know if you watched, but Game 6 or Game 7, they were down at halftime, and you listen to him talking. He said, "Listen, guys, we're down. I'm going to put it in your hands. You guys got to go out there and do it. I can sit here and tell you, yeah, you got to do this and yeah, you got to do that, but I'm not on the floor. You're on the floor." And he gave them, he let them go out and play their game. So like you said, they didn't do it. They weren't great in that zone offense.
No.
But I still like the way he coaches, and I like the way that he sort of puts it on his players to go out and finish the game. I think with the Clippers, because they spent so much money and they traded most of their team away to get Kawhi Leonard, they were expected to be in the championship. They were expected. Doc Rivers has so much past experience in basketball with the Clippers that the Clippers said, "Look, if we can get Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, top money guys, there's no reason why we shouldn't be in the championship." And that's the difference between Boston and the Clippers, I think.
Well, that is true. And Doc Rivers, though, has got a very large body of work. And one suspects that with some of these coaching opportunities that are still out there, that there's a reasonable chance that he may end up somewhere else if he so desires. The other thing, Copes, that I want to ask you about is the Denver Nuggets. And I think that they had a fantastic series. But when you look at their roster and how they move forward, Jokic is an absolute jet. And Jamal Murray just enhanced his reputation. It was already really high, but though the combination of those two is enough that you put really high-quality NBA players just around those two alone, and you're going to be in the conversation to be a contender. But you look at their roster, and they 7 impending free agents: Paul Millsap, Mason Plumlee, Noah Conley, PJ Dozier, Tyler Cook, and Torrey Craig is another one. He is an unrestricted free agent who's very familiar with Australia. Spent three years playing in Australia, and much love. We almost call him an Australian. Is it just good enough to know you've got the two Jets superstars and say, hey, we can figure it out with a roster around them? Or how important are some of these other signings? I would say that based on what we saw in the last couple of games and that last series, Jeremy Grant, he becomes a very, very important piece.
100%. The first guy I would sign would be Jeremy Grant because, again, the way he played in the playoffs was just phenomenal. He guarded LeBron, but on the other hand, he scored the rock. He rebounds well. He runs the floor well, and he's got the best pedigree you'd ever imagine with his uncle and father being ex-NBA players. So I think that I would probably try to sign him first. But the thing with Denver is when you're down 3-1 in 2 series and you come back, you got to be tired, Drew. I'm not making any excuses. You just got to be tired. And then you run into a team like the Lakers. It was just too much. I mean, and at the end of the day, they wore Murray out. They wore Joker out. They put Dwight Howard on him, and he sort of took him out of his game, got into foul trouble, bothered him a little bit. But they're certainly going to need some help down the line to make it to that next level. But if you can make it as far as you did with 2 guys, imagine adding another 1 or 2 guys to that roster.
All right, then, Copes. Well, what do you think if you're Brad Stevens and you want to get your team to the next level?
Yep.
Just bringing back the same pieces, 1, that never happens, and 2, I don't think it's probably going to be enough. What, as you look at their team, do you think Brad Stevens should be going to management and say they need? positional?
Well, I mean, you got to give him a little leeway. Hayward got injured probably at the wrong time. Tice has been amazing for them because he hustles and he he does all the dirty work. I think I would go after a 5-man in the middle, somebody you can throw the ball down to, because Tice wasn't a great scorer, but he did all the dirty work. I look for a 5-man to add to that group, someone who could set a high screen and pop, or roll to the box and you can throw that ball down low, because the perimeter game is set for those guys, I think.
It's interesting because would have been nice if somehow or other, if you took a hypothetical and Aaron Baines was still there, like he'd been there the last couple of years, and what type of difference he could have made to the Celtics. That real grunt guy, gives you a bit of nastiness in the middle.
And developed a three-pointer. He developed a three-pointer.
And developed his shot. But I think you're absolutely spot on when it comes to the Celtics. And what about with the Denver Nuggets? You're the grand poobah there. What type of player are you thinking with the Denver Nuggets?
Denver's one of those teams that is hard to judge, man, because you got your 5-man playing. I like the way they play. They have the heart. Any team that can come back 3-1 twice, look. They have the heart. They have the right tools. They just probably need one or two more guys on that perimeter.
Well, I guess you've got the prospect of the natural progression of a guy like Michael Porter. There was a lot to like about Michael Porter on the offensive end, but Copes, some of his efforts on the defensive end were abysmal. And I tell you what else I didn't like. It seemed like he had just an element of sookiness about him that I didn't like. The body language. Now, that might be unfair because that internally they might say, oh, no, he's got no problems. But that little conversation he had at the end of one of the games where he never got any touches and he was complaining about getting the ball through more people's hands, and just some of the way he sooked it up, there was a few alarm bells. I think he's potential to be a star. Hey Copes, when you think of this playoff series, and we've touched on it already, but the impact that Bam Adebayo, and here's a stat that really, I think, reflects the impact that this young man is having. He joins Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, and Dwayne Wade as the only Miami Heat players to record 30-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, and 5-plus assists in a postseason game. Such as the performance and the standards that he's setting himself. He called himself out after Game 5 when he felt like he didn't deliver and really put the whole loss on his shoulders. Well, Eric Spoelstra better be hoping that he does that more often, because his bounce-back performance in Game 6 was nothing short of spectacular. But now he's got one of the greats, Anthony Davis.
Well, I agree with you when you say Bam has been an absolute superstar, averaging 19 points a game, 11 rebounds a game, and 5 assists. Now, the one thing I like about him is he never quits. He plays defense. He's not selfish. I said the one thing I like, the 5 things I like about him. He's a team player. I honestly think, and he's had a couple of games where he's gone missing, but those were early games. He knows he has to score for Miami to have a chance. But I say this now, if AD has 1 or 2 of those games he's had in the previous playoff games where he goes missing, there's only LeBron to do all the hard work and guys to chip in, obviously. Guys are going to chip in. But LeBron's doing all the hard work. Remember, you got Iguodala. Again, I said this, Iguodala and Butler taking turns guarding LeBron. And these 2 guys are the best defenders on LeBron in the last 5 years. So, again, I asked this question. If Hero comes in and grabs 9 rebounds and 17, 18 points, and Robinson gets hot from the outside, Butler, who's not a great scorer, but he does whatever needs to be done.
He's a great scorer, but he's not a 3-point.
He's not chasing the ball. He's not chasing the ball. He'll give the ball up whenever he wants. And there's been a lot of flack about Butler joining this team and joining that team. But at the end of the day, he's made a championship game, and guys love him on this team. So I don't know what's happened. Either he's changed his attitude or maybe someone else was wrong. But if the Lakers go out and lay an egg against this Miami team, can Miami win the championship?
I know they can't. The Lakers need to be playing to somewhere near their best. And you stole my thunder a bit, because in this final series, if you're looking for that X factor, who can be that guy that, every player's great, but who can take their team over the edge? For me, Tyler Hero is stepping up to be that guy. In that Game 6 and the game's on the line, and Tyler Hero clearly has got some improving to do, because he had some horrific turnovers handling the ball.
Yep.
But the confidence that Eric Spoelstra showed him, particularly when you've got Goran Dragic sitting on the bench, a veteran that's played fantastic throughout the series and is an integral part of what the Miami Heat are going to do. And you've got Tyler Hero in that crunch time make a few bad blunders, ball handling errors, and give it up that led to uncontested layups. But Spoelstra stuck with him, and he got rewarded with that Hero 3-ball, with the Hero going off to the right, pulling up for the mid-range. 2 spectacular, important offensive plays. And throughout this final series, he has shown big agates and has stepped up big time.
Sure.
And he has the capacity to do that against the Lakers as well.
He stepped up more than you think. I'll tell you what happened. Kuzma had a girlfriend.
Oh, dear.
All right?
Yes.
Kuzma's going out with this girl. Forget her name. I'll come up with it. You forgot her. Going out with this girl. They broke up. All of a sudden, she's dating Hero now. And Hero's invited her to the bubble.
Right.
She's in the bubble on the side watching Kuzma and Hero. And so, although it's the Lakers and Miami, it's going to be Kuzma and Hero going at it as well, bro.
Well, I don't know how much they'll match up together against each other specifically, but it's and I wasn't necessarily rolling with Kyle Kuzma as that X factor. Now he could be. He has that capacity. He's going to play enough minutes. But who's been a big X factor for me on the Los Angeles Lakers team is your boy, and some argue that he may literally be your boy, is Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo.
He's knocking down the three.
Mate, he's knocking down threes. He's making plays, in particular for Dwight Howard, but some of the
Anthony
passing
Davis going to pass
and Anthony Davis. Copes, Rajon Rondo has, when you think of X factors and a guy that he's been around a long time, won a championship with the Celtics, he has provided way more than I ever thought he was going to do. And to me, he's going to be potentially a big X factor.
Well, he's got that experience as well. Remember, he won a championship in Boston, so he knows what it takes to get there. He's been there, so obviously he can do what he needs to do to help these guys get to the next level.
I know Kuzma has been in the league a little bit longer than Hero. I'm not just bringing this up because of they've had the same girlfriend.
Yeah.
A little thing there, but who do you think out of those two in 10 years' time are we going to be saying is the better player and has had the better career? Extremely young player.
No, I'm going with Hero because of not just the ability to score. This kid rebounds better than anybody I've ever seen at his age. Yes. He comes in, he's a guard, and sometimes he has 8-9 rebounds in the 14, 15 minutes he's playing, Drewy.
He does.
And he's consistent with it. It's not like it's a fluke. He does it every week, and he's not worried about his shot. If he doesn't score, he's doing other things. Whereas if Kuzma doesn't get a shot here or there, it looks like Kuzma could be Suki-Lala every now and again. So you got to deal with that. But I'd much rather have Hero than Kuzma right now.
And I think we need to just, again, pay a little bit of homage and respect to LeBron James. Copes, this is going to be his 10th finals appearance. As we know, he's won 3 of them. But he has made more appearances than 27 other franchises. So he personally has made more final appearances than those franchises, and some of them with very, very long histories. That is an extraordinary statistic and shows the level of greatness of LeBron James.
Let me tell you something. We talk about being the GOAT, and I hate to bring this up because I don't want to get into it.
Yes.
But for a guy to get to a finals 10 times means, first of all, you got to be very, very good.
Yes.
But you still got to have plenty of luck too, Drew. You know and I know. I don't care how
you
good you are. You got to have the right teammates. You got to have the right system. You got to have the right coach. You got to be in the right place at the right time. Now, with all that said and done, he's still on Mount Rushmore as one of the best to ever do it.
Yep.
So you got to give him a hand. You got to say, well done, LeBron.
The narrative right now is being presented for the Miami Heat. Eric Spoelstra represents that loyalty because he has gone from video coordinator with the Heat. There's a lot of head coaches that started out as video coordinators, but they bounce around, go to all different teams. Started with the Miami Heat, moved up to the bench with Pat Riley, won a couple of titles, took over the head coaching job, and has now with a chance to win his third NBA title. It's 1995, I think it was, when he first started with the Miami Heat.
And I think we got some vision here of him in front of one of the old Apple computers.
Yes, we do.
Doing this thing, cutting up tape or whatever. It's a great story, man. He'll forever be a part of the Miami Heat because he started at the bottom and he's sitting on top right now. That's a fantastic story.
The coaching merry-go-round continues to move. Mm-hmm. And word coming out this week is that the 76ers, Mike D'Antoni, it's his job to lose, not for him to gain. So the speculation is that they've been deep into conversations. They've basically offered him the position, and it's him to lose. If you were the Philadelphia 76ers, would you just put grab that handbrake with Mike D'Antoni and pull it up as hard as you possibly can and just say, hang on a second, maybe Doc Rivers might be a better fit?
I don't know. I like Doc Rivers. I think Doc Rivers is probably a better fit than D'Antoni because D'Antoni changes things around. And I'm sure if D'Antoni joined the Sixers, one of the two favorites of our players would be out of there. Ben Simmons or the big fella would probably be gone. Now, I think a guy like Doc Rivers should come in and work with both of those guys and add to them and make them a better team.
Well, that's true. And the word was, and perhaps one of the sticking points in the negotiations, is that if Mike D'Antoni does come on board, that will be the trigger for a blockbuster trade that would involve our very own Ben Simmons. Now, this is just scuttlebutt right now. So there's other than reading things on the internet, but it does kind of make sense given the way in which Mike D'Antoni plays, doesn't it?
Yes, because he loves, as we know, he loves the three-pointer. He loves blazing from outside, and that's just not Ben Simmons' game right now. And then there was also talk of bringing in Harding to Philadelphia. Could Harding and Embiid play together?
James Harden.
There was talk.
Yeah, if you and that would be the type of trade that you'd be talking about. Obviously, James Harden a lot older than Ben Simmons, so you're going for the now rather than the future if you did a trade like that. But James Harden is a proven league MVP superstar. Is going to drop 30, guaranteed. And when you're a coach, nothing more satisfying looking at your squad and so, well, at least I know I got 30 plus in the one.
Let me tell you something, Drew. The one thing that scares me more than anything, if he brings in James Harden, you got guys on that Philadelphia team that aren't willing to stand there and watch James Harden dribble the ball 47 times before he shoots. That's not going to happen.
No.
So you got to change that whole system.
Well, if Ben Simmons is out, and say they did it, let's just take a hypothetical. And firstly, would you do that trade? If there was a trade on the table that included Ben Simmons and James Harden, and you're both these two franchises that were very similar placed at the end of the season. They're in the finals, but didn't really go too far in the finals. would you do a trade if you're the Houston Rockets for Ben Simmons, or would you do the trade for James Harden if you were the Philadelphia 76ers?
That question, I would. If I'm Houston, I would want a Ben Simmons because he distributes the ball so well. He gets it and goes. But if I'm Philadelphia, I wouldn't want James Harden because he does not fit the other guys around him.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, it would be interesting to see a Joel Embiid and James Harden combination, and clearly it would require other pieces around him. But that is going to be interesting, and I'm sure that Doc Rivers, that would have been a shock to a lot of other organisations. I think most people, when he missed out, they thought, "Oh, this could possibly happen." But
really, I did call this a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "Doc
Rivers
is probably over his limit now." I did.
No, you called for it. You didn't just call it.
Well,
you
I didn't call for it. But
you were
champion.
champion.
I called for it.
You wanted Doc out.
Three times, Joey. Come on, man. I don't care.
We've been through this, but that's what I'm saying. You wanted him out, and you got your way. Basically, you got your way.
I made a couple phone calls, man. His ass is out of here.
Well, I'm suggesting that perhaps they listened into the LEU podcast and said, Leonard Copeland is making some very good points.
Right,
so of the 20 or 30 people that actually listened to us, one of them might have been one of the executives at the LEU.
There you go. I did play for the Clippers long ago, man. I played for them a long time ago.
So you never know, and that just inspired them to pull the trigger. Big bucks. Woo! Something in the order of 11 million.
11 million.
For one season.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 to run.
Yeah.
So it's a
He's not worried. He'll get picked up. He's not worried about the money. Someone will pick him up. So good luck to Doc Rivers.
Copes, last one here. It's an interesting little dilemma. Dion Waiters is a player that's currently on the roster of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yes.
He started the season with the Miami Heat.
Lucky man.
So in theory, no matter which team wins, he's entitled to a ring because he's played for both teams.
In that year, yes.
In the same year,
right.
Correct. And Andris Varejao was a similar situation when he was with Cleveland and he went and played with the Golden State and Cleveland ended up winning. But he said, no, I'd left early enough. I wasn't entitled to it. And I don't know whether he eventually did accept a ring because he was actually playing in the opposition team. Let's just take the situation that the Lakers lose.
Yep.
Do you think that Miami should be offering Dion Waiters a opportunity to receive a ring?
110% offer the man a ring because he was a part of it. Of course, you offer him. He was a part. Right. He helped you. Wow. He might have knocked down a couple of shots in yes. 3 or 4 games to help you get to where you were. So at the end of the day, if they want to offer him a ring, and I'll be just like this with my hand up. Yeah, I'm ready. I wear a size 9 finger. Get it ready for me, bro. Crazy.
But even if the team that you're playing against, he's out there trying to beat you.
That's right.
Your direct opponent, in theory, gets a ring, and you're comfortable with it.
At the end of the day, he's helped both teams to get where they are. And Dion Waiters is a scorer. I'm sure when he played with Miami, he came off of that bench, he won some games for him. So yes. At the end of the day, in L.A., he's out there doing his thing for the Lakers. He's diehard. Whoever wins, give me my ring, bro.
Well, a comparison can be made to what happens at the Olympic Games in swimming. You know, Copes, if you're in, say, the 100 metres relay, and during the heats, you swim in the heats, but you don't get to swim in the final, it's my understanding is that you still get a ring, get a medal. Now, a lot of people think, well, no, you shouldn't deserve it. In contrast, if you are a player in an AFL team, so you play for every single game, you could have played in every single game, finals game, the whole season, but you don't actually play on grand final day, you don't get a premiership medallion.
That's not right, though. That's not right. That should be changed immediately, Joey, because there's a guy who's played the whole year, blood, sweat, and tears, and helped the team to get to where they are today. You surely got to show something. You got to give him something to say thank you for your services or something. If the guy gets hurt and he doesn't play and he doesn't get anything, he doesn't feel a part of it. That's not right.
I agree. I think if you've contributed throughout the course of the season, and in an AFL team, and you've played even just a few games, and as you mentioned before, those few games could have been vital in getting to a position on the ladder. Can be vital in the overall outcome. And I, for the life of me, don't understand why they don't get that.
I need you to ask this question on the bounce. When you get on the bounce, I need you to
Well,
ask
I have. I remember on radio, and I've been shot down before. When I was working on radio, when we had this debate, a lot of the times, the general feel and the majority of view is that, no, they shouldn't get a premiership medallion.
That's crap.
I don't know. I don't get it, Copes.
No good.
Now, this is a little different because you're actually playing against the same guy. So there is an extra layer here, but you still say, no, give the man his ring.
Give him his ring, bro. Give him his ring.
I like it. I like where you're coming from, Copes. Hey, it's going to be a fantastic series. Before we move on, it's now time. I want your winning team, and I want your finals MVP, please.
I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say the Lakers in 7, and finals MVP has to go to LeBron James.
Interesting. I'm going to go with the Lakers in 6.
Whoa.
And I am going to say that the finals MVP. I'm only doing this because you said LeBron. So we have a bet each way to make it interesting.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Hey,
neither one of them will get it. Neither one of Miami will win it. We're both going to be wrong. We'll watch.
You never know. You look at a few years ago when Andre Iguodala, who's featuring in this series, he won the MVP for the job that he did when he was with the Golden State Warriors against the Cleveland Cavaliers and against LeBron James. So I just think that there's just a little bit too much going for the Los Angeles Lakers, and that trickery, that zone defense, I just can't see it against the Los Angeles Lakers. Hey, Coach, another fantastic show. We're going to catch up again next week. It could be it's all over by the time we do our podcast next week. It could be.
Won't be over that quick. We'll be back on, Val. We'll be back on. Don't worry.
I reckon we'll be back on to talk about the final game or the final 2 games that are coming up. But either way, we'll be back to either review those games, preview those games, or review the championship season, and then we'll take a hard-earned rest because we've already done 13 shows, Coach. I mean, gee, please, we're just providing some great entertainment for the folk out there. But it's again, it's been a lot of fun, Copes, and we look forward to a grand final series. We look forward to your company again next week, and tune in however you consume your NBA because it's going to be a cracking series. On behalf of Leonard Copeland and Andrew Gaze, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
This has been a No Filter Media production.
Say what you want.